I was alive before rock and roll died. So, I grew up with the probably Crazy Train.
Crazy, but that's how it goes.
Welcome to the Jungle. Thunderstruck.
All great ones. I like Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah,
I think that fits you.
I'm Billy Mitchell.
And I'm Megan Metzger.
And this is Control Alt Defense.
Alrighty, well, let's kick this off. Welcome to a new episode of Control Alt Defense, our new podcast, and it's a very special one at that because we have the pleasure of hosting a 4-star general, General James E. Rainey, Commanding General of Army Futures Command. General Rainey, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate the invitation.
We look to have a very unfiltered conversation with you today, General Rainey. Engaging, no frills, hopefully really raw, unfiltered. And I hear you have a bit of a reputation for telling it how it is, so I'm excited about that prospect. But really talking about your role supporting the Secretary and Chief of Staff's vision to bring about one of the most ambitious transformations in the Army since the Cold War of the last 50 years, and how Army Futures Command is really supporting that department-wide transformation, and really how you're helping to reshape the Army's fight and how it thinks about its role in modern operations. So really looking forward to digging in. But before we get started, we love to kind of give a humanistic, kind of personal approach to our guests and ask them sort of icebreakers or questions that are a little bit more humanizing. So we'll start with that. And I was doing some research before our interview, and I read that you were a college swimmer, and that's actually kind of how you claim to have gotten your start with military service at Eastern Kentucky University. So I wanted to ask a very easy question. What's your favorite stroke?
I was a distance freestyler, so more. More in willpower and endurance than natural talent. But yeah, hey, listen, I love Eastern Kentucky University. It's a phenomenal school. It's where I met my beautiful wife, and it's where I joined the Army, as a 19-year-old. But there's a little more to the story since personal thing. So I grew up like a lot of people, no military background in my family, and Northern Ohio, so no big military places around it. Didn't have a whole lot of great family necessarily, but every single person that I respected in my community had one thing in common. They were all veterans, every single one. My coaches, the best 2 teachers I had, including Miss Smith, who was in the WAC. My youth pastor was a SF Vietnam guy who got out and became a minister.
Get out of here! Wow.
The older gentleman down on the corner that everybody respected was a veteran. So I was just, I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do, but I that resonated with me. And then I was going to join the Army coming out of high school. Got a chance to go to college. Figured I'd go for a year till I ran out of money. Joined the Army next summer, and then so I signed up for ROTC, thinking, "Wow, I might as well learn how to march before I go to basic training." And then, turned it around and got offered a 3-year ROTC scholarship, and 38.
Here you are.
Yeah, never thought about doing anything else ever.
I think it's such a beautiful story, and I did know this about you, that you enlisted and you have worked your way literally all the way up through the ranks. And did you ever think when you joined that ROTC program that you would end up commanding, pinning on your 4th star? No, of course not. I didn't enlist. I started in ROTC, and that's right.
Sometimes I wish I don't believe in do-overs. Anything happens for a reason. If I do talk to a lot of young people who ask me about being an officer and kind of encourage them, some of the absolute best officers I've served with spent a little bit of time as an enlisted soldier. there's a lot of value in that. But anyways, no, I didn't.
Yeah, sorry, I stand corrected. Yes.
I thought I know you know that, Megan. I thought
Yeah.
no, I thought I'd serve. You know, I planned on doing one tour, and you know, got in the Army, and I'm like, I love what I'm doing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Why would I do anything else? And just was blessed with the opportunity to keep serving. But no, all the people I knew who aspired to being real successful usually weren't.
That's awesome.
You know, it's much better to take care of your mission, take care of your soldiers, you know, do what your boss tells you. And, you know, that always kept me busy. I didn't have a lot of extra energy for stuff.
That's great. We'll do one last one. We're sitting here in swampy Washington, D.C. How's July in Austin treating you?
It's awesome. It's awesome. Texas is awesome. It's always awesome.
Texas is.
It's you know, we had the tragic flooding out in West Texas over the holidays, and you know, it just, you can't put that into words. You know, in fact, I'd ask anybody who's, you know, those of you that believe in praying to keep those families and all the first responders out there in your prayers. But other than that tragic event, it is never too hot in Texas. You know, it just comes with the territory. You get to go pick out your Christmas tree in shorts and flip flops. You're going to deal with some 100-degree days in the summer. But
that's true. It's all a trade-off. You get barbecue. You get to sweat while you eat it. It's fine. It's part of the deal.
What is your favorite barbecue in Austin, Texas? I know that's a highly contentious thing.
Yeah,
that might be the most contentious question of the day.
You get a fist fight down here. I will not endorse anyone. I will say that I've not ever had bad barbecue in Austin, in Texas.
Yeah.
I'll tell you privately. If you're come see us, I'll take you to the best one.
Yeah.
There we go. He has a list.
I'll take you up. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited to really jump into this. You know, I've had the pleasure of kind of working alongside yourself and some incredible Army leaders that have been pushing the envelope for quite some time. But I have to tell you, we've all been around this block long enough to see changes and reorganizations happen. This one's different. You know, the big ATI effort going on, like, tell us why this, why now, and how is this not just another Army reorg for the sake of reorging?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of there. It's definitely not a different, you know, same thing, different name. I mean, this is fundamentally different.
This is different.
It is the, and I'm a student of military history, Army transformation.
Yeah.
You know, part of my job and something I was passionate about before that. This is indisputably the most ambitious transformation effort since the Army recovered from Vietnam. I mean, certainly. I mean, nothing else that we've done is even close to this magnitude. And and I think when the dust settles, this will be bigger than the early 70s, mid 70s. So if you think Vietnam to Desert Storm, you know, that a remarkable story how the Army moved to an all-volunteer force, fielded new equipment, reorganized, doubled down on the NCO Corps and professional officer education. I mean, it's this big. So it's not a material thing. It's not a acquisition thing, although those are big parts of it. It's entirely ambitious. And it's really, you know, leadership of our chief and our secretary recognizing that the world is changing. The world is, you know, it's the most disruptive period of time I can recall in military history. You could make an argument it's the most dangerous time in the world since, you know, late 1930s. And those two things argue for dramatic change. You know, we're on the shot clock. We got to change. We got to preserve the things that we're great at. You know, this isn't a rebuild. It's how do we make sure we stay the most dominant land force in the world that we are today, but be able to get against new enemies with new technology. The not to speak for the chief and secretary, I thought they did a great job explaining their posture statements and publicly. You know, the way I look at it is you know, they're going to stop buying things we don't need, which is tough. So to free up money, So they're not asking for money. They just want to be able to spend the money that taxpayers generously give us differently to buy things we know we need, right? So those two things.
That's not a trivial exercise.
Right.
Right.
So what my challenge to our team, and we got a great team down here, is, hey, that's enough for the chief and secretary. Let's free them up to do that.
Yeah.
So the organizational changes that are happening are something that we should be able to do. And unfortunately, we got great teamwork. The current ACOM commanders are all friends. We've all served together in and out of combat. General Brito, the TRADOC commander, and I are, we've been friends for as long as I remember. So we're working through it, and it's going to result in a better product. But the thing is, I'd ask people to remember, this isn't about, cutting headquarters for the sake of headquarters. This is about making sure that our most important formations, which start at rifle squad, working backwards, right from the bottom up, the value of our formations. The rifle squad is our number one weapon system. It's our most important formation we have. So making sure that the people we have are in those formations, not in big giant headquarters, which made sense in some cases, but kind of grew. And if we're honest, and you look at what's happening with technology, bureaucracy, that kind of grew on us, it's time to get smaller at the top and get more lethal at the bottom. And, it's more about the getting lethal at the bottom than it is, efficiencies or cutting people for the sake of cutting.
Yeah.
But if you take, back to my optimism thing, so no organization is more responsible for the Army we have right now than Training and Doctrine Command, period. 50-plus year history of, the NCO Corps, Officer Corps, the schools we have, the way we onboard and train soldiers, our doctrine, which is the superpower that most people don't understand. So how do you take that incredible proud history and professional excellence, then take that plus Army Futures Command, 8-year-old organization. So if you were building an Army organization 8 years ago, you would have done some things that are a lot smarter than the way we did it 50 years ago. So I'm very proud of our team. We're small, we're flat, we're outward facing, very good with industry. We're not on a big giant Army base that you got to get a cost, get on, go to a
smack
meeting.
there in the middle of it all.
Right.
Yep.
So how do you take those two organizations, merge them in a way that you maximize the benefits of both? Get a smaller organization that's better. The commander of T2 Command is going to have an unprecedented control over the entirety of the institutional Army. First handshake in a recruiting station to first unit of assignment.
Sure.
To, combat development, combat design. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, you've hit on a lot. And so I want to start unpacking some of this. You've talked about the vision.
I'll try and give you short answers. Sorry.
No, I'll just start dropping your mic. Hey, Adam, start turning off his mic if I give you the signal. No, but I'm listening to even some of the most recent testimony with General George and Secretary Driscoll. A couple of things that jumped out. One is the concept of what you said, fiscal agility. And it was very clear. I want to stop investing in things that don't serve the war fighters anymore and invest in the things that are going to make us a more lethal force. And that's not a trivial exercise, right?
No.
If you look at how the Army is doing all that program, all the programmatics, and then you've got the Hill. I'm sure the Hill's been coming at you for quite some time with your future investments. But then you also just talked about then that has a trickle down effect, and you're looking at really changing formations and how we fight. And I know you've talked a lot about integrating humans and machines into formation, and that changes how we have to train, and everything that TRADOC you just talked about is really, really great at. So with this merger of the two commands, how you talked about bringing the best of both forward, but how do you do that? What's its core pillars to keep up with the speed, and so that we can continue to adapt and modernize? Because I think part of this transformation that the secretary and the chief are envisioning is so that we can continue to be very adaptable and change with speed and keep up with all the stuff that AFC sees as a future tech that we need to fight. So that was a very long-winded question, so I'm not any better at short words than you are, I guess. But like,
Yeah.
what is the goal? Like, how is this going to help that?
Yeah, well, one I mentioned is one officer who's accountable to the chief and secretary for transforming the Army. One period. That is always a good place to start. And whether it's a recruiting enterprise that's responsible, we got to start bringing people into the Army different ways, different people, different skills. Again, not walking away from the thing that makes us great, and that's young men and women, deciding to serve their country. And we need, we're going to need infantrymen and armor. Not everybody's going to be a UAV cyber guy. You still got to be able to stab people and set stuff on fire when it's cold and raining. That's the core competency.
Yeah.
But we got to bring different kinds of people in the Army. We got to get more innovative in the way we train them and onboard them. So you got to do that because people, that's our asymmetric advantage that we're always going to have.
Yeah.
If we don't have better people, none of the other, you can't take advantage of the innovative high tech culture of the U.S. unless you got soldiers that can handle technology, which ours are incredible. That's the one problem we don't have is young men and women adopting technology.
They were born with tech in their hands now. So.
Yeah. No more digital immigrants. Once those 4 stars go. But anyways, then you got Combined Arms Command, TRADOC's core competency, Fort Leavenworth, the Centers of Excellence, who not only build leaders and NCOs, officers, train them, run our functional schools, but they're also charged with integrating the lessons learned, taking the lessons that are lessons observed, I call them. Because a lot of times we say we learned something when we really observed it, but how do you see something happening in the world and study it, understand it, break it down, figure out what is temporal and what's, revolutionary, evolutionary.
Sure.
Inject that back into your training, whether it's professional, it's a POI in a school or a functional training course, and get those skills into the hands of your soldiers before they go to war next time. So that piece. Sure. And then Future Concept Command is thinking about not like make-believe 2040 stuff, but next couple years, next couple palm cycles, what are we going to need to do in the future that we can't do now? And what is the solution to that? Which is usually technology. Sometimes it's leader development and other organization things. But
does that training profile start to really adapt and evolve? I know transformation and contact has been a big core effort where, how do we get these capabilities into warfighters' hands or they can start using them as fast as humanly possible, observing and hopefully learning some of those lessons too. How do you think that will feed back into this new command structure and that new way of training and developing
Megan, from working with us, we've been doing this for a couple of years now. I mean, we got to change a whole bunch of things. So program a record, might have made sense once upon a time. We got 58 brigade combat teams in the Army, 20 divisions. We want to buy something. We used to think of that in the terms of, how do you standardize something across 20 divisions and 58 brigades. One of the things we've recognized, 2 years ago at least, was the world's moving too fast. You don't want to buy 58 brigades worth of UAVs. You want to buy good UAVs for 3 or 4 brigades at a time. Yeah. And recompete that every time. The next generation command and control, that didn't start with us going to industry with a gigantic requirement document. That started with really a 2 or 3 page piece of paper saying, here's the problem we're trying to solve. We need, acknowledge that the expertise resides in the civilian tech side in that case, and bring those people, self-organize, so those kind of things. The TIC's brilliant. In fact, I wish I'd have thought of it, but the chief. And basically, all he's saying is the best place to get feedback is the men and women doing it, right? So the people in the brigades, in the battalions, in the companies, platoons, that's the user feedback that we want. There's a role for everybody on the backside, but if soldiers don't want it and it's not good, and AFC, before I took command, we got into the soldier touch point business, and it was awesome. It was a big improvement. It was let's periodically take something we're developing, get it 30 days, get it in the hands of soldiers. What the chief did was like, why do I got to do it for 30 days? Just give it to them for 9 months. Give it to them for a year.
Yeah.
Let them train with it. Go to JRTC or NTC and take it on deployment with them. So that in and of itself is pressurizing the entirety of the system, because the chief who owns requirements, as you know, goes down to Fort Polk, watches the unit train, talks to their leaders, and they say, yeah, we don't have this, we need more of this doesn't work when it rains, the battery's too heavy. And the companies that are figuring it out are fighting for the opportunity to get their kit into the tick formations, because they recognize that that's like gold, that user feedback.
There's nothing like it.
There's one company that I won't tell you, but they said, hey, if you let us put our kit in there, we'll pay for it. I just want to have one of my engineers with the kit listening to the soldiers. So that is where we're going, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the sooner companies figure that out, the more successful they're going to be.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know you and I have talked about, and Billy, and I'll let you jump in here too, but I had a tremendous opportunity of a lifetime, and I have so much respect for the men and women that, deploy, but I went to the CENTCOM AOR, and the experience and seeing things in theater where at the point that they're being used, how they're being used, there's nothing like that. When I think about the companies, like how the ones that are really succeeding and evolving are the ones that understand that fundamental touch point and like the actual application of it, which sounds, simple, but you can read about it, but until you actually go live it and see it and understand it and put it into warfighters' hands, it's just night and day. And I think when I'm thinking about like transformation and contact, I think what's powerful is if the more and more we can inject that thinking, and it sounds like that's what's happening with ATI and a lot of the Army transformation going on right now, is, the risk calculus is changing. I don't know if you would disagree or not, but the risk calculus of, hey, let's get them something that works today, not in 30 days, because the alternative is that a one-way UAS comes in and they couldn't defend themselves against it either way. So the not getting them something at some point is way riskier than giving them something that might not be full tested to all the specs that we make these things run through. Do you agree?
Yeah. Well, it's all about risk. And risk tolerance, acceptance. It's not, do I take risk or not? It's where am I going to land risk? And what the chief and the secretary, in my opinion, are doing, unprecedentedly well, is they're making a deliberate decision to not land that risk on the men and women who are going to be in harm's way. They'll land it anywhere else, but let's get it, because if we don't act, we don't change, we don't do aggressive stuff, we don't fight in unpopular fights, the risk doesn't go away. It lands on company commanders next time they go to war, which could be this week. I don't know anything, don't read anything into that, but with the parts of the Army that are ready to go tonight, if asked. So the risk tolerance, I would say, I don't want to speak for them. I would describe their risk, both of them, their risk tolerance is, I haven't found the limit of it yet. And that's coming from somebody who used to be the, aggressive, high risk guy. But it's transcending the whole organization. So if you're industry, it's almost like a litmus test. I deal with companies all the time, and it is an American superpower, the American industrial base. But it's almost a litmus test. I can tell them what the same kind of things I'm saying. I get one of two distinct reactions. well, General, what you don't understand is, I got a board and investors and, supply chain this and rare earth mineral that.
Yeah,
Or why would we do it any other way? I mean,
sure.
why would you not have fair and open competitions and that attract companies that believe in their product and are willing to put it on the line and test it?
Yeah,
They usually, when I do
yeah,
that, good companies are like, when's the competition and what do I
yeah.
get when I
Let me at
win?
it.
You know, you
Never,
spelled my
never back
name,
down.
you spelled my name wrong on the plaque, kind of thing. And some of them don't deliver, but the aggressiveness with that's more, and then everybody, yeah. Anyways, I'll stop there.
I'd love to jump in because I love this conversation. I think it's been framed really well. I think you kind of talking about the evolution in the time of Vietnam up till, the Gulf War and so on, and how things have sort of, the change hasn't occurred as rapidly since then. And I think we've talked a little bit about the sort of the what and the how, but I'm curious more if we take a step back on the why, what those dynamics that have changed more recently that make this moment in time really ripe for this sort of transformation? Are there certain things? I mean, obviously technology, some of the competitors we're facing, things of that nature require a different way of thinking, disruption, speed, et cetera. But, I don't want to speak for you. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what are those key things that really make this transformation necessary right now?
Yeah. Yeah, and we're not 2 years into this. I mean, I'd go and take you back to the stand-up of AFC, the first administration, President Trump, the Army was hyper aggressive in recognizing that we needed to change. We are just 10xing that, now, in my opinion. The signature modernization efforts that started 8 years ago have transcended the last two administrations, and are all, for the most part, minus a couple notable exceptions, are, in a position that we could accelerate if we had additional money and time. So it's more the last decade or so. There are a lot of things. I mean, the fiscal pressure, the realities of, you're not just going to be able to throw money at the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, OCO was enabling, it enabled bad behavior overseas.
Yeah.
We used to be able to just get money without the level of accountability. When that ended, people got real serious about being good. We're always good stewards of it, but you realize, you're not going to have Netflix and Hulu. You got to pick one kind of thing, to steal the Chiefs analogy. But so there's that. There's a sense of urgency. I mean, the war tragic war in Ukraine, it's like, holy crap. We say, holy shit, something's changing every 6 months. Then it was everything's changing. Something's changing every 3 months. And now it's 6 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. I think if you talk to our great commander over there, General Donahue, it's like one period of darkness, 2 periods of darkness, and the battle for adaptation is changing. So that you can't do program or record 58 brigade solutions to that kind of reality. AI is another one. I mean, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but something crazy is going to happen. So there's a realization that moving to data-centric warfare, which is something the Army's, in my opinion, doing better than anybody, is a realization that none of this stuff, UAS, counter UAS, nothing we want to do is going to work if we don't take advantage of what's coming with AI, and you can't do that unless you get on a data-centric platform. And we figured that out a couple of years ago. So all those things coming together. But it's like everything. It comes down to leadership. The leadership of the Army has got a sense of urgency that matches the seriousness of the threat, and we all just got to give way together.
Yeah. Go ahead, Billy.
Oh, yeah, no, I was going to mention, it is a department-wide transformation. It's just not just Futures Command, obviously. So how do you deal with that broad of a transformation? I think that's pretty difficult, and it's a daunting challenge. Outside of the leadership, is there additional thought into how you make that a pervasive department-wide transformation?
No, it's probably, if you think about it, it's probably better that this is affecting everybody. So you're not trying to do if you're trying to transform part of the Army while the rest of the Army didn't, it would probably be a harder leadership challenge. But this is so big, so important. It's going to touch every single part of the Army. And therefore, everybody's got skin in it. Everybody's going to give way together. And I think it's a net advantage in terms of this ambition of it.
Yeah. How do you overcome? One of the things that I'm starting to see is a lot of I think people right now kind of stopping a little bit, going, well, I'm not sure what's coming down or how to move or behave. Like, do you see any short-term inertia for long-term gains? Like, how do you keep the team still moving forward and rolling, knowing that they're not clear exactly what their future is going to look like just yet? They know it's coming. Like, how do you handle that in the short term? That's probably sitting right on your lap right now, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Well, war fighting is inherently complex. The fog and friction, Clausewitz would say, or Murphy, as younger people would say. It's nothing ever goes the way it's supposed to. So I've always been taught people, fight the enemy, not the plan. Don't fall in love with your plan.
Love that.
So I say all that to say, to use a doctrinal term, movement to context. So in our doctrine, if the situation's uncertain, we continue to attack, but we make sure that we've got a balanced approach to that and that we're doing good reconnaissance and we're pulling security. So as opposed to some really well-planned, defined precision raid, which is very fragile if things start going wrong. So I think this is kind of playing to a strength of the Army. I mean, I'm a joint guy. I wouldn't go to war without my teammates. Every service has its strengths. One of the Armies is we do whatever we're told. You know what I mean? We are the global, we're the contingency plan for everything. We do windows, as I like to say. We're the world's best land force, and we'll fight anybody that we're told to. I think we undervalue the deterrent value of our enemies, knowing how good our Army is. But controlling land and taking land, that's our core competency. But somebody drives a barge into a bridge in Baltimore, call the Army. You want a meaningful presence on the border in a couple days, call the Army. Tragedy strikes. I mentioned earlier, our great National Guard is all over West Texas right now, saving people's lives. So, we're very proud of that. And I think that do what you're told well culture lends itself to this kind of transformation.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a couple of times program of record, and things like that. You have long been a critic of bureaucratic inertia. So, I think we have a quote once where you said, we're trying to do everything and getting nothing done. So talk to me a little bit, like, what are the biggest bureaucratic inertia barriers that you think this transformation is going to really start knocking down in a way like we haven't seen before?
Yeah. I don't remember saying that, but sounds good.
You can find anything you want on the internet.
Megan made it up.
It was really stupid. It was AI. Somebody, it was brilliant. I probably said it. No, I'm just kidding. So first of all, it's not the people. I mean, listen, I've not come across.
They're operating in the system we gave everyone, right?
Everybody, everybody wants to talk about organizations and letters and, pieces. I've not come across anybody, there's no insurgents. I've not come across anybody who's deliberately trying to not be awesome. Nobody comes in the Army to suck at. Or military. It's way too hard for that.
If you want to go be lazy at a job, I don't think the Army's where you should focus, right?
And for a lot of good reasons, we handle a lot of taxpayer money that could be doing a lot of things, and I'm a big believer in civilian oversight of the military. I've been in countries that were run by the military. It's not any place you'd want to be. So I absolutely do that. But because of that, the system was designed as like a gigantic bureaucracy. Centralized control, decentralized execution. right? So I always tell people, if you want accountability, you got to have roles, responsibilities, authorities, and resources aligned under one person. And I am not aware of a case where that exists when it comes to modernizing, transforming, acquisition.
Yeah.
So that's really what the chief and the secretary are doing. If you want to do something, it comes down to leadership. You got to bet on people. If you want to hold people accountable, and there's no shortage of people in the Army that would be glad to accept the accountability that comes with these missions. But if you're going to do that, you got to have clarity in the roles. You got to be crystal clear on who's responsible for what. They have to have the authority to exercise that mission, and they have to have the resources to pay for it. So the sooner we get that all lined up, in accordance with the FAR, I'm not advocating any crazy thing, the AEs.
But there's a lot we could do there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's my passion. That doesn't have to be everyone's passion.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. I mean, but blaming it on a regulation that's not what we do. I mean, so creating unity of effort, getting everybody to go together. The chief owns requirements. The secretary owns acquisition, and the contracting people and the testing people and the money people, all those people. The closer we get to closing that under one human being, bet on people, the better we'll be. And that's what you're seeing. I mean, that's basically what we're doing.
Yeah.
So, but
sorry,
people,
you mentioned
the system is built to buy down risk to almost zero. The PMs and POs are great people. I know them all. They're great teammates. Most of them were in combat arms units before they got into acquisition. They've been to school. They got a bunch of experience. They are incentivized to buy down as much risk through the process as possible. Don't get a protest. Don't have it done McCurdy. If it takes 15 years, that's better than making a mistake. What the chief and the secretary and our teammates are doing now is fail fast, learn from it, be better next time.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Now, if you bought 58 brigades of something and you bought the wrong thing, somebody should probably get fired. You buy three brigades worth of UAVs from 3 different companies and find out one of them's awesome, the other one's good enough, and the other one is a waste of time. That is
That's very useful.
Months and a couple $100 million. Yeah. So
you mentioned earlier on in the conversation the role industry has to play in this. So I'm curious, in taking that question in that line of thinking a step further, how do you incentivize industry to go on that journey with you? Because you need them to be your partners in all of this, right? So how do you disrupt their traditional kind of bureaucratic ways that they're stuck in at the same rate?
Yeah, I don't know if that's as hard of a problem. I'm not an expert. I'm not a businessman, obviously. I've found no shortage of companies that are willing to do things differently and take the risk. In fact, I think that's kind of a common theme of some of the newer successful companies. And I don't deal with all the primes, but the ones I do deal with are changing their behavior. I mean, they realize that they have to change also. But the Army, the secretary, when he came in, great piece of guidance, challenged the Army, said, hey, we got to be better customers. We got to be better customers. Yeah. So what does that mean? That means being clear about what you want. So we're writing 2 to 3 page characteristic and need statements, go out to industry and say, hey, this is the problem we're solving. These are the things we think we want. But, do the Silicon Valley. Don't give us what we asked for. Give us what we should have asked for. That kind of humility is attracting phenomenal companies. And then we got to pay, no, I don't know about you all, but I cannot think of a case where I would give somebody a bunch of my money up front on the promise that they would give me the thing I was buying in 9 months. What I mean? So it's just me. I'm more like, be the thing and I'll pay you once I'm sure I like it, So we got to change. We get, and they're business people. I mean, we have a unique opportunity here, I think, where there's a lot of money behind defense. There's a lot of people that are paid. I think tech patriotism is a real thing. I'm not naive. I mean, they're business people and capitalists, but But I think we have to buy stuff. We have to be clear about what we want. We got to do fair and open competitions fast, and then we got to buy stuff in a way that incentivizes people. Because once we get through the adopting the right things, then we got the whole manufacturing thing, which is only going to happen if we start actually buying things. So, a lot of work to be done by everybody.
But you know, I think it's interesting, like the concept of needs, and you're an incredibly humble leader in my experience. So I'm gonna try to, toot your horn a little bit, but the way, like restructuring things around a concept of needs, for those that aren't familiar with it, I mean, like you said, you're saying this is the outcome and these are the expectations. And one of the things that I think jumps out in the way that that's structured is you also kind of put industry on notice, and you've said if you're not willing to play, if you're not going to have open architecture so we can integrate new capabilities and do all those, need not apply. And that sets a tone. And I've seen companies come together and really start collaborating in ways that I didn't expect, because the Army very clearly said this is what we need to fight and we need your help getting there. But this is like our end of, we're going to try to change our end of the deal, but we need you to change yours. And I have also, on the other hand, gotten calls from primes going, what in the world's happening? And they're not ready for that. And that's okay, because they need to adapt and change too, because again, the fight is happening much faster. So I just wanted to call that out, because I think that if you put that with this Army transformation, with the chief and a secretary saying we're going to stop buying stuff that we don't need and isn't serving our warfighters, I think you're already setting the stage for like a new kind of incentive and a new expectation. And again, like you're saying, as long as you all are following through on the buying part, I think you're already setting in motion a different behavior on the industry side. My 2 cents. But
yeah, well, I appreciate that, but again, this stuff is long time coming. So, 10 years ago, the idea of open architecture, MOSA, and getting out of intellectual property ownership, those are not new things. That's a big part of it. One of our great former AFC teammates, a guy named Ross Kaufman, Lieutenant General. He was up in Michigan, famous, incredible warfighter leader, was also really, really good as a CFT leader early in AFC. And when they went about building the XM30 and the tanks, they described things they wanted, and that was the first volley to industry. Dave Hodney, who's the FCC commander, one of my deputies, next gen squad weapon, he started that by going out to industry and describing what we wanted, which is fascinating, because when the original 3 results for that weapon system came, you couldn't even tell they were the same weapon. You know what I mean? It all met the requirement, but that kind of optionality. So we went to school on that, and then just said, started with the network. I mean, that problem is so wicked, and industry is so much better at it than we are. It just made sense to say, hey, we want our commanders to make more, better, faster decisions than the person they're fighting. We want the chief, the user interface, the end user device. We just want tablets, phones, good kid in the hand.
Shouldn't have to train on it for years and years to learn how to use it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have to go to school, and cloud native with edge compute. No mission. Then the anti goals are as important as the goals. Like no stovepipe mission command systems, no server stacks. And then you go out to industry. So now I think I don't want to get ahead of the chief. We're on the cusp of a couple more of those for some big wicked problems, building on that success. But it's a bunch of people over time. You got to be a good learner in life, but especially in this profession. The ability to learn quickly, the intellectual humility it takes to learn and challenge what you think you know. Nothing's scarier than somebody who thinks they figured something out. I mean, that is the red flag of all red flags when it comes to what's happening with warfighting and technology.
I have a quick question as we get close to the end. As we think about the personnel that are going to be a part of this future construct as part of the Army Transformation Initiative, how are you thinking about the experience of the future soldier, those digital natives, as you mentioned up top in the conversation, so that the force is one that the next generation is going to want to be a part of, that they're using the technology and can sort of operate in the way that they might in any other sector or line of business? Because obviously that's been an issue that's plagued military service wide. So how are you building that in so that the next generation is going to want to be a part of this?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and I appreciate it. The skill and will and teamwork of individual soldiers in small units is not going away. I mean, if I'm certain about anything about the future, is the ability to close with and destroy the enemy the last 500 meters when nothing works, it's cold, you're tired. The horror of war that has just been a constant throughout the history of warfare, that's not going away. So first and foremost, we have to build men and women that can do that. Lethality is the thing, right? And people are our biggest advantage, so we cannot walk away from that. So it's not like you can say, hey, you need to learn these new data skills, but good news, you don't have to go shoot your weapon. You don't have to do PT. You don't need to be a high-value, high-character individual anymore. If you can code, we don't care what your values are. That's not what we're going to do in the Army. So you got to take all that goodness, which was hard enough. That's a tough challenge. And then upskill, new skill them in a way that lets them take advantage of what's happening in technology. I'm a little more optimistic about it. I mean, if you took two new soldiers and one of them had to figure out how to fly a UAV and the other one had to do a 12-mile foot march in 3 hours and qualify expert on his or her weapon, I think it's gonna be more about doing the things we've always had to do and topping off really thoughtful young people.
That's cool.
Grown up, get a new, they teach themselves everything. So I don't think it's going to be as hard as we think.
That's great. Okay, Billy, should we do a lightning round?
Yeah, do it.
Oh,
you want to jump in?
Okay. How spicy we feeling today on our lightning round, Billy?
I think we go spicy.
What's a defense buzzword you would ban forever?
Integrator.
Oh,
Integrator.
I like that. Okay.
I was going to ask you at the
I can
top.
tell you why. It's lightning round. So
the suspense is better.
we need industry teams to self-form to deliver what the department needs. They need to figure it out. Integrator is the worst model for the Army.
Oh, that could be a whole nother podcast episode right there. Okay.
What's your favorite piece of tech? Personal or in the service? What's your favorite tech you deal with on a daily basis?
I'm fascinated by adopting AI tools right now. I'm playing around with 4 or 5 of them, trying to learn, trying to figure it out. If I was king for a day, every single employee of the United States military would have access to one of the tools just to start using it and figuring it out. I think it's going to, like I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And
it's going to happen. It's going to happen fast.
That's kind of where my head's at. How do you ask a good question? Like it's not like a real sexy Google, I mean, it's not a search engine. It's a tool that you have to learn how to interact with.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. What is one big defense reform idea that you used to resist, but you've now hit I believe?
Wow. I've never met a reform idea that I didn't like. When it comes to,
Dang it. I believe you too. That's the hard part.
I'll tell you one. I used to be skeptical of distributed learning. I'm a little bit of a purist, I mean, nothing beats putting people in a room together and make them solve problems, peer learning. So I was kind of late on that. The last couple of years, I've seen there's some incredible. We do a lot of work with universities here, and it's not, back of a matchbook cover, fly by night, distance learning. the best universities in the world are figuring out ways. And I was out at Fort Leavenworth during COVID when we had to figure out how to do things differently. And my main takeaway from that was, well, we probably, if I'm honest, we probably should have been doing a lot. Now, nothing's going to replace bringing a team together, but can you take 12 weeks of training, have 4 weeks of it be self-paced, 4 weeks being distributed, moderated, and then only bring your people together for the 4 weeks that you have to be in person. So I'm probably more bullish on that now.
Yeah. I'm becoming a big fan of training in contact. It's kind of like transformation, kind of like training contact. Yeah. Okay, last one for me. What's one piece of advice you didn't follow that you wish you had?
Spend more time with your kids.
Okay, I can't fight that one.
There's no answer to that question that is enough amount of time. You know, I'm hard on myself. My kids turned out to be fabulous people. Very much looking forward to spending all of my time with my grandkids at some point when the Army's done with me. But I mean, everybody said, I just always remember, like, make sure you make your family pay the price for serving. And I think everybody wishes they'd spent more time with their kids.
Yeah. Well, I think you did a fantastic job. Sir, anything we did not ask you or anything that you, any parting words for us?
No, just for everybody out there. I mean, we live in the greatest country in the world, period, indisputably. It's, it's everybody's responsibility to keep it that way. And, if you're a young person, I strongly consider you decide to do something bigger than yourself. There's a lot of ways to serve. The uniform's not for everybody. You can teach school. You can be a first responder. You can get in the medical field. You can cut your neighbor's yard, shovel their snow. I really think that, that so much of the great country we have is because some portion of us are willing to put the collective ahead of the individual. And I hope we are able to preserve that. And, people who've done that, telling their story and how much that means to them, and young people, buying into that. You can be an influencer later, go do something that's bigger than you for a couple of years.
All right. That's beautiful. Billy?
Should we ask the final question?
Go for it.
All right. We asked everybody this question. It's a standard closer.
Tricked you. Okay. Last one for real.
It's an easy one. And you may even have encountered this. I'm sure you've spoken many times and had to go on stage with some music. But if you had to choose a walk-in song, whether it's for sports, going on stage, in front of a big crowd, what would your walk-in song be?
I don't know. That's really not my style. I don't know. I mean, I'm a product of, I was alive before rock and roll died. So, I grew up with the probably Crazy Train, Welcome to the Jungle, Thunderstruck,
all great ones. I like Welcome to the Jungle.
Yeah.
Live that fits you.
Yeah. That's so,
Perfect.
But, I probably not the greatest answer there. I've not spent a lot of time.
We can work with that. Well, sir, we've taken a lot of your time. This was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights and appreciate the conversation.
Yeah. Hey, thanks to you. Thanks for helping us tell the story and appreciate the support.
Thanks so much, General Rainey.